Welcome back to the BraveCo Podcast, men. Hey, before we get started, I want to ask you one quick question. Do you have a really clear plan to build a strong, capable, powerful leader that God's called you to be? If you don't, we have the course for you. It's our BraveCo Foundations of Masculinity and our Sexuality and Relationship course. These are free courses that we've created that you can literally go and sign up today. The best part of these is you get access to our community, right? So you can go, and if you want to run with other men who are crushing it in life, there's tons of guys there that you can jump into a course with, or we even have conferences and events that we do all year long that you can check out. But listen, I want you to go back and think about this. If you don't have a clear plan, if you don't have other guys that you're running with, if you don't have a clear pathway to how do I grow myself as a man? How do I step into my calling? What is my code, my ethos? What does it mean? How do I set healthy boundaries? How do I show up for my wife? How do I do emotion-based communication that creates deep connection in my family, in my marriage? Guys, we lay it out so simply for you. And honestly, I've seen so many men go through this and get complete healing on the other side. So we want to give that to you for free. You can go to braveco.org and sign up today. Welcome back, men, to the BraveCo Podcast. This week, I have the one, the only, the awesome, the most masculine.
Woof.
My dad, Kris Vallotton.
Here we go. I see you got the memo on the shirt today.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
I've got white.
There he is, the
Dad,
purity.
it's great to see you.
Purity message. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's great being here.
We just finished a BraveCo conference at the filming of this podcast.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic.
Yeah. It was amazing.
You preached one of the best messages you preached the best message that you've ever preached at our conference, and one of the best messages I've ever heard you preach.
Wow.
It was incredible.
That's good.
You know why I'm so glad?
You gave me the subject.
No,
You preach on this.
I know what you're good at, Dad.
Yeah.
What I like about that is every man that didn't go to our conference right now is going, gosh, I want to hear that.
Is it available?
Not right now. They should have been there. This is me punishing them.
Yeah. You snooze, you lose.
Yeah, baby. Well, we're gonna have it available soon. Okay. It just takes a bit of time.
Okay,
yeah.
you are gonna download it.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah,
and y'all can get it. But our conference was incredible. We had over 600 guys show up, and we had close to 130 young men run our rite of passage.
That was just moving, wasn't it?
It was. It's so cool.
Last year I cried through the last, a third of it. And then this year I was like the same. What an amazing, the ability for the boy to become a man and actually watch that transformation before your eyes as you see these boys that are running through this mutter course and being helped by the older, stronger boys.
Yeah.
And automatically finding a place of camaraderie without even requesting it.
Yeah. So awesome.
So powerful.
It really is. So, but today we're in the middle of our marriage series. And of course, the men have listened to Dr. Henry Cloud.
He's amazing.
That guy's a beast. Danny Silk.
He's a bigger beast.
Yeah. Ben Armstrong talking about his affair. If you guys if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't listened to those, just pause this one, even though I know it's tempting to play it, and go back and listen to the start of the series.
Yeah.
And
because we're building something.
Yeah, we're building something. You'll love it. Dad, today I really want to talk about how to prepare our sons for marriage. And a lot of men got married and they'd never had a father that really prepared them for marriage. So there would be some guys that are listening to this that are like, man, I'm already married and I didn't get, which is
still unprepared.
Yeah. And that's okay. Like, I think that it'll be a good guide. And then there's a lot of fathers who have sons that are like, okay, how do I set my son up for success and prepare him for marriage and get him ready to lead and do all that stuff? I have a really awesome friend. His name's Chris as well, but he spells it with a CH. And he messaged me 5 months ago and said, hey, my son's about to graduate high school in a year. I'm preparing him for manhood. I'm having him, I want him to be able to have access to all my close friends. Would you would it be okay if he reached out and asked you some questions for an hour? So I just did that today
That's
on
awesome.
Zoom with him. Oh man, I just thought like, this is what we need to be doing with our young men.
Yes.
Like he asked me some great questions.
Yeah.
We talked about my life and we talked about my divorce and my nervous breakdown and my failures and my successes. But there's something in us fathers that we really want to set our young men up for success. And so anyways, Dad, I think maybe starting out with like, I think every dad needs to be able to talk to his son about the value of marriage and
Yeah.
what a covenant is. Like, would you like unpack a bit of that? And then of course, maybe taking us into some of the things that you think are most important. I'll add a couple and
Yeah. Well, first of all, I really do want to just say that marriage is a covenant. So the difference between, living together or cohabiting and marriage, that it's actually a world apart. You're like, I live in the same house, I'm having sex with this woman, maybe I have kids with her. But the difference between cohabiting and marriage is that cohabiting says, I'm in this for what I can get.
yeah.
And so it's really, you might call it a shake hand agreement
Yeah.
that
It's
is
like a
long.
contract.
Yeah, as long as you're benefiting me and I'm benefiting you, then we're in this.
Mhm.
And you ask people that have been together 10 years or 12 with the same person, maybe have children, why don't you guys marry? And they say, well, it's just a piece of paper. I'm like, really? If it's just a piece of paper, why don't you sign it? And the reason why you don't sign it, it may not be consciously, but the reason why you don't sign it is because that marriage certificate, metaphorically says, I'm in this, come thick or thin, come hell and high water.
Yep.
I'm in this forever. But I actually use the fear that I'll leave you if you don't perform
Yeah.
as a way to get what I want, because I'm actually here for me.
Yeah.
And I may help you, but I'm actually here for me. I'm like,
Mhm.
what is best for me?
Yeah.
Marriage is a death march to a life camp. And so marriage is a covenant, interestingly, that a woman has a hymen inside, which is basically a sack of blood. And most of the time, when she has intercourse for the first time, or the second or third time, depending on how it works, but most of the first time, that sac breaks and it spreads blood obviously into her vagina
Yep.
and over your penis, and it prophetically says, we just made a blood covenant. Now you'll notice if you break your arm, you break your toe, you break your leg, whatever, your body will heal.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is once her hymen breaks, without a supernatural act of God, it doesn't fill with blood again.
Yeah.
So it was made to be broken one time. It was made to be broken the first time that you have sex. Now, people will point out every time I've been sharing this for 40 years, they'd be like, oh, sometimes it breaks when she's riding a horse, or, it doesn't always happen like that. I understand,
Yeah.
but here's the other side of it. The science of it is that there is no reason for that hymen.
Yeah.
And you go do the research. Like there's no like there's no there's
No
there's no
purpose, no known reason.
purpose
Yeah.
for this hymen, right? And it doesn't refill with blood without a miracle.
Yeah.
So my question to those people are like, oh, no, that is not the way it happens. It doesn't always happen that way. I'm like, all right, what is the purpose of hymen? You know, the purpose of your nose, the purpose of your eyes, the purpose of your ears. What is the purpose of hymen? And the purpose is that God wanted marriage to come out of covenant, so he provided the blood, so that before the children are conceived, the covenant is already ratified.
Yeah.
And so now we have to talk about a covenant. Why is it blood? Well, it represents death. It says, I've come here to lay down my life for you. I've come here for what I can give.
Yep.
And the way marriage works, as we both know, is that I lay down my life for you, and you lay down your life for me. And so I've come here to die for you.
Yeah.
And as the husband, I begin the ecosystem of reciprocity. I'm the first one to lay down my life.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if you lay down your life, I'll lay down my life. It's no. You are the leader in this covenant. So you first lay down your life.
Yep.
And the reciprocity is I lay down my life and you lay down your life for me. Now, so and then I said, I'll do this forever, for better or worse, richer or poorer. And so a covenant is forever. It's into eternity.
Yeah.
And so I'm not like when we have bad times or it doesn't go well and I don't get my way, or, we have a miscarriage or we have some crisis in our life, we're not like, well, you know what? This just isn't working. Well, you made a covenant for life. So your choice you have is to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to make it work or you have to break your covenant. And also I'll finish with the covenant part with this. It's a 3-part covenant. So
Yeah.
it's me and her and God. So I'm not just breaking my covenant with her, I'm breaking my covenant with God.
Yeah. It's massive.
Massive.
It really is. Really understanding the covenant, it is so important in the world that we live in today, but it's also this massive benefit. The covenant takes away this really tormenting thought of, man, I could be somewhere else. I could get something easier. I could get something better.
Or she could leave any minute.
Yeah, she could leave at any minute. And marriages in which they flirt with divorce are those are the most miserable marriages because it creates and breeds a bunch of insecurity in it. And
It does.
Yeah. And so creating.
And I would add this while you were on that part of the subject, it creates that in the children.
Yeah.
So children born into cohabiting have an inherent sense that their destiny is in no way forged.
Yeah, it's in jeopardy.
It's in jeopardy all the time, every day.
Yeah. One thing that I talked about is the most important thing that you can bring to a marriage and create in a marriage is a ecosystem of emotional safety.
Yes.
And like they would describe it as like a bubble of emotional protection and safety. And it's so important because if you think about it, like if you don't know how your dad's going to come home, if you don't know how your mom's going to show up every morning, if you don't know what to expect inside of that, if dad doesn't know how mom's going to greet him, if mom doesn't know how dad's right, like if I have this disruption, even just the question of it, all of a sudden it creates all this protection, these unnecessary protections and inside of the relationships, and it really breaks them down.
From anxiety.
Yeah, from anxiety, from fear. Yeah. And so the covenant, right? Getting this right and teaching our young men that your word is your bond. I remember growing up and you constantly telling me, son, your word is your bond. Right. And a man doesn't break his bond. He doesn't break his word. And constantly that worked for Little League. I remember playing Little League. I wanted to quit, and you'd say,
remember that.
You started, you have to finish what you start. And these lessons where you go, the greatest things in your life aren't going to start out fun. The greatest accomplishments in your life aren't going to be ones that you really enjoy at the beginning, in the middle, and through the end. They're going to be the things that you said you would, you stuck with it, and you continued all the way. And so I think your word is your bond is a covenant lifestyle, teaching our young men that covenant is what we do. It's how we were supposed to be born into this world. And it's the greatest thing that you'll protect and while you're alive. And even when you're in heaven, you're still protecting your covenant with God.
Yes.
A third of the angels fell out of covenant.
Yeah.
It's the thing that keeps us all bound together.
Yeah. Think about this, Jay. What's the difference between, you go to a hotel and you rent it for a day, or you rent a house, yet you have no contract. It's day to day.
Yep.
And you lease a house that you have, let's say, a 5-year lease on, or you buy a house that you own.
Yeah.
Well, think about how much work am I going to put into a house I have a day-to-day rent on?
0.
Yeah. Do I ever like remodel a hotel room? No.
Nope.
As a matter of fact, the least cared spaces are the spaces that have the least amount of commitment.
Ownership, yeah.
Yeah. So, my hotel room, I'm a clean freak. My hotel room, no. I have a day-to-day rent on that.
There's
hotel.
somebody to come clean that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same thing, you rent a car. Those are the worst cars in the world to buy.
Yeah.
Because I have no ownership of that car. So, it sounds crazy, but when I'm in a cohabiting relationship, it's like I rented a house for the day.
Yeah.
Or maybe I rented it for the year. It's like, but this could last a year.
Yeah. I got a lease on it.
This might go 3 years, but, I'm not gonna put a bunch of money and sacrifice into something that I don't think I own.
No.
And so, that's the difference in between, the attitude and consciousness and actually subconsciousness of a
Yeah.
cohabiting relationship.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
Okay,
and marriage.
part 2. So, yeah, because I really do. I think that the covenant piece is massive.
Yeah,
It's something that men learn before they get married.
yeah,
We can't wait to teach our young men this
hopefully.
when they get married. Yeah.
You could-
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you're at least starting to plant those
Yeah.
seeds and cultivate them.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I mean, there's a ton of Christians that get married without knowing that, and then their first big dispute, they go see a counselor like, "Oh, when I said better for worse, that was like a covenant? Like, I said
Yeah.
I'd do this forever?"
Yeah, it's real.
It's really
Yeah, it's real. Dad, we were talking a bit earlier, and you were describing a bit about the dynamic of a man and a woman,
Mhm.
and a bit about how a man isn't actually complete without a woman. Like,
Yeah.
can you take us into that a bit? 'Cause I
Yeah,
think it's an
I'd
important
say from
foundation.
2 perspectives, really. I'll talk about the woman's first, and we'll end that part with the men's, because a woman often looks at a man, and she's like, "Well, he's this or he's that. He's not ready for marriage." And I'm like, "Okay, there's some real reality
Yeah,
there." Here's the other side of it. God said it's not good for man to be alone. I'll make a helper for him. That word helper, ezer, is the same word. It's used 2 times for woman, 17 times for God. So the deal is God looks out, he sees the man, and he goes, "Oh, this guy needs help.
yeah,
This guy needs help. I got to find him a helper. And I got to find someone who completes him." And by the way, it says that corresponds to him, which means opposite of him. So the challenge is on the woman's side is she's looking for a complete man.
yeah,
She's looking for a complete man to marry. She's like, "Well, I like him, but he's not complete. He needs to grow up." And I'm like, "Well, maybe he needs to grow up, but he can grow old and never grow into the man he's supposed to be
yeah,
without you, because he is born to have a helper, a
yeah,
catalyst."
yeah,
And then on the man's side, what I find is men have this deep sense often of a sense of inadequacy. It's like, "I just don't know if I'm ready." It's the cold feet before I get,
yeah,
it's like, "Yeah, I love this girl, and my sex drive and my passion is kind of leading me." And then I get 3 weeks from the wedding, I'm like, "Oh my God, I am not ready."
yeah,
And it's like, well, maybe you're not ready, but here's the other problem. For what you need to be, the man you need to be to actually have a great marriage, you cannot be without a woman.
yeah,
So it's a little bit like if you've ever worked with resin, you got resin and then you have a catalyst. And, the catalyst, if you get a gallon of resin, you just need a few drops of catalyst. But without that catalyst,
a
which
resin
by
is,
the way,
yep,
70% of the average cars are made out of
yep,
resin. Without that catalyst, the resin doesn't get hard. So you're over here with goo and you're like, "I have potential, but I've never made anything of myself." It's like, yes, you can't without the catalyst. Like, she's catalytic,
yeah,
can I say, to the hardening of your divine purpose.
yeah,
And so, I think it's so common for men to have, especially as they move towards marriage and they find someone. And, I can't even tell you how many times I've had these conversations like, "I don't know, it's a month away and all of a sudden I'm scared." It's like, yeah, you're thinking of all the responsibilities that you're not prepared for. But here's the challenge. You can't be prepared for them without the catalyst in your life, because
yeah,
that's how God designed you.
yeah. The I think the lie that I am going to somehow complete the work that God has in me outside of being in a agitating relationship, which every relationship should be agitating almost. My relationship with my kids is agitating.
Stirring.
It is. It is agitating or stirring unto my present condition, because relationships reveal what's inside of us, and then God helps to perfect that,
Yeah.
and they really bring out that. And so you're right. I mean, it took me 10 years to be ready for marriage.
But
It took me 10 years of being
in
married
my
to be.
analogy, if I could say this, like, you put the catalyst in there and you have to stir it, right? And so Proverbs says, faithful are the wounds of a friend.
Yeah.
Deceitful are the kisses of an enemy. Iron sharpens iron. So one man
Yep.
sharpens another. Well, what are we talking about? We're talking about the stirring of the catalyst
Yep.
into the resin so that it actually, infiltrates every part of who I am.
Yeah.
And that catalyzes my purpose.
Yeah.
Like a good woman, a wife catalyzes your
Yes.
purpose.
Yeah.
And so, viewing yourself uncatalyzed and then feeling bad about it is like, it's a little bit like, I'm hungry. That's why I don't go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's
well,
real.
you're not going to actually not be hungry till you go to the grocery store.
Well, here's what I love is what we're not saying is that you should have a whole bunch of baggage in your life
No,
when you get
no,
into marriage.
no.
And so I think just one area is when I think about what I want my sons to have when they go into marriage, like I want my sons to be able to own their own heart. I want them to come into marriage going, I am the steward of my heart. There's going to be a whole bunch of areas that come up in my life that are great and that need work. And, I just, we did that so much, Dad, growing up, so much. We had so many conversations in the car, mostly about my heart.
Yeah,
How are you doing? What's going on with you? How's your relationship with girls? Are you struggling with masturbation? Do you know what sex is? I mean, like
yeah,
we had so many conversations back and forth about my life. And we even had so many conversations about what my struggles were and challenges and growths and opportunities. And then I watched you also do the same with other men in
yeah,
your life and go to prayer meetings and business meetings. And I learned over that time that I am the caretaker of my soul. And there's going to be lots of times in my life when I need to root out a weed.
yeah,
And you taught me that the biggest obstacles that you face, that you overcome, you get to give those away. You don't have to hide them. They become these victories
yeah,
and these places of growth and strength, right? And so I had this value for tough challenges. I had this value for facing the hard things, but I didn't, I, so when I said it took me 10 years to be ready for marriage, the beautiful thing was it wasn't my wife's fault that I was the way that I was.
yes,
And it wasn't her responsibility to fix me.
yes,
She just got to mirror.
yeah,
The relationship was in and of itself was an agitator. The relationship in and of itself and the responsibility that God placed, it's not even her. It was God's design for me in the relationship was I would have something that I needed him to give me in order to fulfill this.
Well, I would say too, maybe you mean it differently, but it she becomes an agitator that reveals my inadequacies. And sometimes I accuse the
Yes.
agitator instead of realizing that my inadequacies are something I have to take responsibility for.
Yeah. I'm saying the same thing is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
God's design was never that I would be fully equipped,
yeah, no,
that I would be fully finished. I
yeah,
should say that is that what I need in order to accomplish this mission is in seed form.
yes,
It's going to be revealed
yeah,
while I'm doing the mission, whatever that mission is,
yeah,
it's going to be revealed and I'm going to need him in order to help me accomplish it. It's the thing where
yeah,
you say like any mission, any dream that you feel like you can do on your own
yeah.
is too small.
Or it's not God at
Or
all.
it's not God. Because when I look at fatherhood, I was telling this young boy again,
Yeah,
this young man, he's 17. I was telling him, he said, tell me about your life. And then he said, tell me what you would change, if you could go back to
yeah,
17. I started telling him my life, the
mhm,
addiction to masturbation and pornography and uh, um, the affair that my wife had and the divorce and the nervous breakdown and getting remarried and the miscarriages. And he's like, holy crap.
mhm,
And my response is all that stuff was preparing me. All that stuff, like I needed God to go through it. I wasn't equipped before it happened to
mhm,
handle it. And yet it's made me who I am today.
Yeah.
That is, and my message to him was, you're about to get into a season of life that's challenging and hard, and it's supposed to be, because anything in life that you really, really thankful for and satisfied, you worked hard for. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
emotionally devastating.
Yeah, no, exactly, and it doesn't have to be a divorce, and it
Yeah.
doesn't, I mean, and part of what we're doing, like, here, is taking our struggles and saying, "Listen, you don't have to go through a
Yes.
divorce. You don't have to have a nervous breakdown. You don't have to have these negative things that
Yeah.
happen to you, because we're here to show you the way, a better way."
Yep.
And, interesting, it says, the proverb says, "House and wealth are the inheritance of fathers."
Yeah.
But the word health in the Hebrew is the word to make it easy,
Hmm.
to make it easy. So the proverb isn't saying, give all your money to your kids. It's like, no, the house and wealth to make it easy. Like, my job is to make your life easier. Your job is
Yeah.
to make the generation easier.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't, obviously, we could do our very best to make it as easy as possible, and you can still have a nervous breakdown. You could have a car
Yeah.
accident. My wife could leave you. She has, her own free will. But you're right. And I think that the other thing that you said that's really profoundly powerful is, when I take ownership of my own life, I stop blaming other people
Yeah.
for, for my own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of the nature of our old man to go, it's not my fault. I mean, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. She gets so upset over underwear being on the floor. I mean, she throws a fit about it. She
Yeah.
yells and screams about it. All you have to do is pick up your underwear.
Yeah.
I mean, your disrespect has created that over a period of years.
Yeah.
So it's like, and maybe her escalation feels irrational, but has a lot to do with your inability just to take ownership for the simple
Yeah.
things that she's asking for.
Yeah. I think part of what it leads me to when we're talking about being prepared for marriage and for life is teaching children how to build healthy habits and how to contribute to the environment,
Mhm.
right? And so I think that's why it's so important that as kids are growing up, like Lauren and I, we have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old in the home, and we're starting to, although they are not perfect, we're starting to create expectations, healthy expectations that create a sense of purpose in them,
Mhm.
ownership, and responsibility. And so when they get up from the table every night that I can remember, uh, uh, once they're able to walk and carry stuff successfully, they pick their plate up when they're done, and they bring it up to the counter. And that is one of the ways that they know, okay, I've got to start contributing. As they get older, they start to unload the dishwasher with us now
Mhm.
and put it away. Edie can even make her own breakfast if you,
Don't
if,
mind it. It's a little bit of a mess.
yeah. And now we're starting to go, okay, your room is something that you're managing, you're responsible for. I'll come in and help you, but this is your responsibility. So cleaning it up. And then we have these routines that they do every single day. But part of the benefit in that is, again, we're going back to, I'm not actually trying to create responsible kids. I'm trying to create a responsible adult. I'm trying to create an
Yeah.
adult that understands how to build a healthy habit and learns how to create an internal structure so that when they get married and they find those rhythms and routines that, what Lauren was good with when I got married and what I felt like was acceptable were two different things.
Yeah.
My family's culture was different in certain areas than what her family's were.
Mhm.
And so what clean meant to mom was different than what clean meant to Lauren's mom.
Mhm.
What and vice versa. We'd have
Yeah.
what conflict looked like in our home
Mhm.
was different than what conflict looked like in her home.
Mhm.
But because I grew up in a home that taught me the value for ownership, but also how to create habits and how to take responsibility, it set me up to be able to flex and go, oh, even though this isn't what we did, this is what this is what you're not, this is actually what brings peace to your life.
Yeah.
So I can get on this other track and jump in with you, as opposed to, I see a lot of young men, I see a lot of grown men who were never taught how to create healthy habits, were never taught personal responsibility. And therefore it's so hard to flex into and even build another culture outside of the one that you've always lived in.
Yeah. And I would add to that part of covenant. So when we talk about covenant, it sounds like a little ethereal, it's
Yeah.
kind of mystical.
Yeah.
And to your point, if my wife came out of a culture
Yeah.
where her house was significantly cleaner or neater or more organized than the home I grew up in, and she's like, "I need you to put away your dishes after, wash your dish and put it away,
Yeah.
or put it in the dishwasher, or I need you to wash your clothes." And I'm like, well, and I grew up, and my mom will always wash my dad's clothes.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, the question really isn't about roles
No,
as much as it is about a laid down life. So
it's great.
it's not that I'm so responsible for putting away my dishes. I'm responsible to create a connection with my wife.
Yeah.
And, uh,
It's
and I,
great.
and I think that this is part of covenant. It's like, okay, well, I didn't grow up like that, but what I did grow up with is a mom who loved my dad,
Yeah.
and my dad who loved my mom. And my mom didn't require, she wasn't a neat freak maybe.
Yeah.
So he wasn't tasked with, you know, vacuum the house once a week,
Yep.
whatever. But he was tasked with protecting her heart.
Yeah.
And so I come into a home where the core values are the same, but maybe the actions are different because the person that I'm in relationship with has a higher value for certain things.
Yeah.
And so, like I would be the clean freak in our family.
Yeah. You would.
And Kathy she's not a pig,
No.
but she can live with a much higher level of clutter
Yeah.
than I can. And I'm like, but she doesn't live like that. Like, she
Hmm.
picks up her stuff, we work together to keep, and it's like, she didn't have to do that. She just does it because she loves me. So
Yeah.
this is covenant actually, what's the action of covenant look like?
Yeah. It really is to serve.
It's really, I've come here to serve. It's that simple.
The interesting thing about serve, and I want to cover one more thing before we finish, but the interesting thing to serve, in a lot of ways, really is to lead.
Mhm.
And we often think of serving as this person who's doing what somebody else wants. But when we talk about the man
Mhm.
in a marriage and serving, it very much is leading. You're serving from the top down. You're serving as the leader.
Yes.
In the same way that a man opens the door for a woman practically, you never stop being the one that's the initiator, that is the one that's opening the door.
Exactly.
So emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, the Bible says that a man leaves his mother and father and clings to his wife. And I heard you preaching this, I
Yeah.
think 2 Sundays ago or something, and you made a great point. The point isn't that they go and live with her parents.
Yeah.
The point is that God intended that a man would always pursue a woman, that
Yes.
a woman would always be pursued. Most men make that until the wedding day,
Yeah.
right? I'm pursuing sex. I'm pursuing, but the beautiful thing is the design for a man was that we would always continue to pursue her. And that is an act of service.
Mhm.
I have this mindset that I'm going to serve in emotionally connecting. I'm going to serve in finding out what's important to her. I'm going to be the first guy to open the door constantly and make sure that she has a way to come in and to be vulnerable, to come in to add her. She's the incubator,
Yeah.
right? So if you give her the ingredient, if you serve her and give her the ingredients, she's going to give you something more beautiful than what you brought into it.
Exactly.
And that's a beautiful place to grow from. Um, One of the things that I want to add before we finish here, because I think that it's not talked about enough in marriage, is the best marriages in life It's like you can eat whatever diet you want. You can eat a Mediterranean diet, you can eat the carnivore diet, you can eat like the Spanish do, you can eat, as long as you don't put processed food in it, right? And so people are like, well, how come Italians aren't like dying and they drink wine? And well, how come? So the healthiest thing in a marriage, we talked about the emotional safety and connection, but is to have flexibility, emotional flexibility inside of a marriage. And when I look at you and mom, if we were to, which would be fun someday to map out your guys' history, your timeline, and to frame it and to look at it for all of us, is the marriages, and you can really
What's
think
the artificial ingredient in this?
what's that?
How's the artificial ingredient
Yeah,
fit this?
I'll give it in a second.
You're getting there.
Yeah. So to me, what creates flexibility inside of a marriage is that emotional connection.
Yes.
But it's not even just the emotional connection. It is that deep emotional connection, but it's that I'm responsible for myself. I'm taking ownership. I'm able to communicate and set healthy boundaries, right? That creates a ton of flexibility inside of a relationship.
Yes.
You can have emotional connection, and you can have a deep emotional connection, but if people don't know how to set healthy boundaries, if they don't know how to communicate and do conflict really well, then all of a sudden I have a relationship that's really rigid. And relationships that are really, people that are really rigid, they have to have the same thing the same way every
Like
time.
laws and rules.
Yeah. And when I think about like my daughter Edie, a year ago, a year and a half ago, she went through a whole stage of her life where all of a sudden she was really triggered. Um, she, after Lauren's mom died, she had a very hard time. And it wasn't just that, but that was a trigger in her life of, I can't put socks on. I can't put pants on. Things feel right. She's a very rigid person, but it's not just physical. If you change the plan on her, if you said, hey, we're going to watch TV and then, oh, actually we have to go to grandma and papa's house, all of a sudden she's emotionally very rigid. Now I have a very deep connection with Edie, a very deep emotional connection with Edie, but she's still rigid as a person. And so again, back to Lauren and I have been working really hard to create flexibility in our relationship with her.
Yeah.
I can disappoint her. I can say, hey, we were going to do this, but now we have to do this. That's life, right? Inside of marriage, the best human beings in the world are human beings. I'm not saying the most valuable. I'm saying the human beings that enjoy their life the most
Get along the best.
aren't the ones that have the most predictable life. They're the ones that actually have the capacity emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually to be really flexible and to flex in the bend. That's faith. That's having a faith life. That's having a vision, a purpose. So to me, part of why I bring this into the conversation is I think that sometimes we have this fear that we're going to raise kids wrong. We're going to, I have to be careful, we have to coddle and, and, and we, instead of creating kids that are deeply connected, responsible, have faith in God, have this environment that is growing, is changing, but they're connected to people that are very solid. They're connected to a God that's never changing. We're connected to, they're getting constant feedback. My fear is that our culture is raising very rigid kids, very rigid marriages, very rigid human beings. If you say the wrong thing in our culture,
Intolerance.
And instead, so parents have swung the other way to try to create a perfect ecosystem for kids.
Yeah.
A perfect ecosystem so that they don't
the perpetual bubble.
Yes. The goal isn't to put our kids in a bubble. The goal is that our kids would have emotional safety, but that we'd be growing resilience inside of them. I guess that's maybe a more popular word. We'd be growing grit and resilience inside of our kids, a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. And the trash to me comes in when we start to tell them and create an environment where they think they're fragile, where
This the artificial
yes,
food, and
yes,
it's not real, but
it's
it
not
feels
real.
real.
It feels real, but it's not
Mhm.
real. Where they don't feel like they have what it takes, where they feel like that our world right now is feeding young men this you are a victim, you're somebody else's responsibility.
Yeah.
You weren't
It's not your fault that not succeeding.
you're and you have to be coddled. It's all those like this environment is too much for you. And instead, like, I just want to say all the things that we've already said, but the goal, what I'm trying to do as a dad is to raise a gritty, resilient family. My daughter can handle another child disappointing her. I don't have to keep a child from saying to Edie, "Oh, I don't like your hair." I don't have to create these zones of safety. No, no, she has a safe place in our home. And I'll make my point with this. I'll finish my point with this. I know you have something to say. There was a point in my life when I went to school and I didn't feel like a teacher was treating me well. I actually knew the teacher wasn't treating me well.
Yeah, I remember that story.
And I remember coming home and saying, "Hey, this is totally unfair. This teacher isn't treating me well." And I remember you saying you were going to do something and
I
then,
first was gonna go kill the teacher.
yeah. And then you realized, I can't solve all of his battles for him. I can be here as a place of wisdom. I can be here as a place of advice. But son, you're going to have to learn how to confront the obstacles in your life that are challenging to you. You're gritty, you're strong, and you didn't say those exact words,
Mhm.
but that's the message that I started to get. I'm 15 years old, and I remember you telling me, make all of your mistakes at home because you have mom and I to help you. I just continually remember you sowing these things into my life. That's how this is honestly how divorce didn't break me. It's how nervous breakdown, I come out better at the end. It's how, because I've been given this life in which I could be in hell one day and know it's not eternal.
Mhm.
I can be in a tough time and I have this safe place to come back to, but I also know that you're not going to save me in it. The last experience that I'll give you is I'm in the middle of my nervous breakdown. I can't use my arms. I'd signed this contract to write this book. I'd already been paid 15 of the 30,000 I was supposed to get for the book. And because I have a publisher, and I remember crying one night on the phone a year into it. I can't type. I'm waking up seeing demons in the middle of the night, and I'm telling you, I can't type. I can't do anything. I wrote this. I'm 4 chapters into a 12-chapter book. I'm done. And you said, son, you signed a contract. You made a commitment. You're either going to have to lay down and die, or you're going to have to figure out how to fulfill your promises. And at first, I felt like you were so cruel and didn't understand me. I was angry, but I've trusted you because we have this deep personal relationship. And I took a shower the next morning. And I remember in the shower thinking to myself, he's right. I'm either going to lay down and die, or I'm going to figure out, because I thought I was dying. I'm either going to give up my life, or I'm going to figure out how to make something out of the life that I do have. And so I got a dictation machine. That was in 2009. Dictation didn't work very good.
Yeah.
And I wrote my book using a voice dictation machine.
Yeah.
What did it do?
Dragon software.
You had the mindset of a father who said, what's more important than getting your need met today? The biggest artificial filler in your life is you can't do it.
Yep.
You're fragile, you're weak, you're broken, you're done, you need to give up. That's the artificial filler in your life. You need your circumstance to change in order for you to be okay, in order for you to fix this. The most important thing that you continually gave me over and over and over again is you need to keep your word. You need to step up. Mom and I are here for you. You got to get creative. This is something that you can do. The task that's in front of you, God's developing you for a future time. It's your job to step up and sow into this. So to me, what that creates is a life of grit, flexibility, and you create this marriage
Yeah.
where it can handle the tough storm.
I agree. And I think, just in closing, we live in a society right now that, as you pointed out earlier, it doesn't do disagreement.
Yep.
It sees the person with a different opinion as a bad person.
Yep.
That's a bad person. I'm a good person.
Yep.
It doesn't do confrontation unless it's online, and then that confrontation is destructive.
Yep.
It does destructive, not constructive
Yep.
criticism. And so therefore I get in real life, and if I've been trained by the machine,
Yep.
m- I am way not ready for any kind of conflict
Yep.
because I learned to blow up people that I don't agree with.
Yep.
And I learned that it's better to be right than it is to be together. And these are all values that have nothing to do with the kingdom.
No.
And then I try to create that around me. I try to I get yes people around me. I punish people who don't listen to me,
Yep.
including my wife and my kids. And then usually it ends in a disaster ultimately. And I end up in some psychologist, psychiatrist, or some pastor's office learning how to actually do real life.
Yeah.
Where you're right. It I have a plan every day, and that plan changes every day.
Every day.
And it's not life isn't predictable, and I was built to be flexible.
Yeah.
I'm inside, I am built to be led by the Spirit. I am built for the wind.
Yep.
I am a sail. I am built for the wind. I am built for the changing winds of the Spirit. I am built for the changing directions of God in my life.
Yep.
And for what's happening with my wife and my children. And so I have capacity. The deal is weird because I have tons of capacity to adjust. Like
Yep.
it's like I'm a 10-ton dump truck. I'm hauling around 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And when someone puts 400 on, I'm like, oh, I'm going to crash. It's like, no, you were built for 10 tons.
Yeah.
But you just don't know it because you never carry 10 tons.
Yep.
And so, we were built, when I look at what the Iraqis going through, when I look at what the Israelis going through,
Yep.
what, the Ukraine's going through, what,
We got 1 minute so you can get to your next
what
meeting.
Russians going through.
Yep.
And I'm like, how would you like to live with bombs flying over your head every day? But you have pictures, videos of Israelis with bombs flying over their head and they're shopping.
Yeah.
Uh,
You adapt to the
you
environment.
adapt because you have to.
Yep.
And so we complain that someone wrote a bad post about us. I'm like, bro, you are 10 times bigger than that. Look at the Ukrainians, their country's, I don't know, 30% destroyed. And every day they wake up with bombs over their head. Our son was there,
Yeah.
my grandson, your son. And yet those people have had to pick up their lives and the uncertainty of tomorrow
Yep.
and move on.
Yeah. It's real. Giving your son lots of challenges in which he can build confidence. Confidence is not something a man's born with. It's built through competency. So over and over and over again, I learn, I build this belief system that I can, and constantly allowing himself appropriately to find the end of himself and to grow beyond that. That is such a gift that every dad can give to a son. It builds resilience, it builds grit, and it helps him to build a life in relationships that are so incredibly deep and rich because he knows as long as I keep going, as long as I don't give up, I'm going to get there eventually. So,
Yeah. So let's finish with this thought. You're watching us today and maybe you're thinking about getting married. You're 17, 18, 20, 25, 30. And you're like, I don't feel prepared. I'm like, normal.
Yep.
I don't feel complete. Normal.
Yep.
I don't know if I have what it takes. You do. And it will emerge
Yep.
in the battle.
Yep.
Like it will emerge in the responsibility and it will emerge in love. And so I just want to say you do have it. God's with you. And and part of the preparation is realizing that you need the woman. She needs you. And if your parents were the helicopter mom or dad, or they coddled you, they put you in a bubble, it's like your life isn't over. Like you're going to learn what you should have learned
Yep.
as a child, what things we're trying to teach our kids right now, and by the way, not perfectly, none of us do it perfectly, you're going to learn that as an adult. But all the capacity, you were built as a 10-ton truck, all the capacity you need to be successful in life, you really have that
It's
capacity.
true. It's in you. It's your job to mine it out.
It's your job to mine it out. There we go.
All right, man. Stay brave this week. We will see you next week.
Love you.
Hey, BraveCo men. Hopefully you loved this week's episode. Listen, if you have not subscribed to our podcast, you are already behind. Go ahead and click right here to subscribe to our podcast. And if you have not watched last week's episode, you can click right here and watch last week's episode. And listen, if you want to upgrade your wardrobe, you can check out some of our new hats that we have in stock and all our other swag. Go to braveco.org and you can look at our store there. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.